Hello and welcome back to Sarah's Spare Corner. My name is Sarah. I am the host of Sarah's Spare Corner. Sarah's Spare Corner encompasses gaming as well as arts, crafts, and various different forms of creativity. Additionally, I like sharing theories, concepts, and ideas as I am a philosophy major, and when I'm not bored, I might travel places, and I might post about it. Now, you might be thinking, why is this video a time-lapse when it clearly looks like I'm doing management here? Mostly because I had just recorded the last video of this Planet Zoo series and I was pretty exhausted, so I didn't really want to talk. But originally it was also, the whole point of this was so that I'd build the stations around the zoo, like kind of how I did with the main station. I would do the same for Cougar Stop as well as Bullwinkle Station. Now, my original plan was to make a blueprint of the original station and then just copy and paste here. But it didn't really work out that way, partly because the whole walkway system's completely different. The facing of the stations are different. But I did have like a little bit of extra help, so I just cut out some extra pieces and then kind of rebuild from there. I think the third one, the Bullwinkle Station, is slightly different than the original station. Now, keep in mind, this video is only 33 minutes, but the original recording time is 4 hours and 30 minutes. So there's a lot we get done in here. First, of course, finishing the station, making sure that as it goes into the mountain, there is a little bit of character there. I just realized that we definitely have to put lights into, you know, the cave. I really need to work on these caves. I haven't touched them at all. I mean, well, not really. But anyway, so that is a plan that we will do sometime in the future. I don't know when, but we will finally touch caves at some point. And that will probably be a very long video, but we haven't touched it yet. Right now, what we're working on is the entrance into the cave. And because I am going with this glass zoo, this is how I want it to look. And honestly, it's not bad. Like, it kind of is exactly how I plan it out to be anyway. So, and thankfully, we didn't have to overlap too many glass pieces in this area. But I think this area is where it gets a bit funky because I'm trying to figure out, how do I want the pathing system around the walkway to look? Do I want it to be completely covered? Do I only want a portion of that covered? Also, how do I want the back of the station to look? Because obviously the back of the station at the other, like the main station, is slightly different than this one. They're coming down from a curve, so I had to create it where it's a little bit more wide open. Whereas here it comes in straight, and yes, it does come from a curve, but not as much as a deep dive as the other one. So this one, I can get away with extending it a little bit more with the glass, not worrying about whether or not the glass will cut through the train. But also I can kind of work through some of these other pieces so that they don't look so ridiculous, because I honestly did not like the way the entrance piece of the train coming into the station looks at the zoo. So we kind of go this direction, which I think we'll probably go in and change a bit. Now, I did think, I'm like, maybe I should start putting down the pathing system. And I'm going to be honest, I think I put down one piece and leave it, because I'm like, if I do this now, it's going to be another 12 hours of recording, and I don't have time for that. So I just put down one. We're probably going to do a time lapse where I go through the rest of the zoo and put down all these glass pieces again to completely cover the rest of the zoo. We aren't doing that right here because, again, do I want to do that right now? Not really. So the only pieces that I think I do add the glass to are the ones that are connecting to the train. And specifically here, because I barely put any effort on the last train either, because again, I had already recorded about 3 to 4 hours of the last video that came out the same day as this. And I know that if compared to how long the last time lapse I did, where I completely refurbished the zoo with these glass pieces, took about 24 hours in total, I think, if I remember correctly. And so I knew that if I'd start putting down all these pieces, it would be a very, very long episode indeed. So I decided, let's not. Let's not do that. Not right now. We're just gonna work on the couple of pieces that are really concerned surrounding the station, and we'll leave the rest to another time. And then I suppose some other time I'll probably go back in to the actual zoo building, where we will do every single path again, and we'll probably fix the caves. I don't know if that's going to be anytime soon, if I'm being honest, because I just got a bunch of animals in, and I would like to slowly work on their exhibits. Now, what I could do in theory is, and you guys let me know, here's the options, okay? We do a couple of time-lapse episodes, okay? So each time-lapse episode will be an animal, because as you saw in the last episode, we had put down all the animals. And then you'll see in this one too, at some point, we do kind of, you know, give a little bit of love to each one of the exhibit animals, because I do end up putting the animals in this episode. And that is because I just wanted them in. Honestly, I had no other excuse except, I mean, the pens are already here. Might as well, you know? And also, like, it'll kind of get people to move around the zoo a little bit more, because nobody uses this station right now because nothing's really in this area. So if I put down the cougar and the lynx and the snow leopard, you know people are going to be using this train station. This was probably the hardest part of this train station, was like, how am I going to connect the smaller portion to the taller portion of this this glass piece? And I think I figure out, I wouldn't say it's the prettiest looking thing ever, but I think what I ended up doing is, well, what if I do one large covering over both the entrance and the exit of this train station? And that's how we will do this. Maybe in the middle between the two path systems, so it's not just grass. Maybe we'll build something in between. Maybe we could put like some food stations or food stalls on the exit out of there. I don't know. We'll figure something out. Maybe we'll just decorate, you know? Maybe we'll put a little water fountain or something in there. But either way, I didn't like it. Or I just wanted this area to be covered. I figured it would probably be the easiest way to close this area off anyway, is just have the whole thing connected. So that was the plan for this station, was just, let's just connect the whole thing. I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't say it was the best placing down of these glass pieces. Not at all. But I did it, you know. They're a little funky sometimes. They're not my favorite. But, you know, maybe by the time I'm done this zoo, I'll be a master at working with glass in Planet Zoo. I don't know. Okay, so back to our options, okay? So we do a bunch of time-lapse episodes, okay? Where each episode, I just focus on the exhibit animals. That's it. Maybe we'll do a little bit of management depending on how long the time-lapse is, right? But mostly focus each episode on building up each exhibit for each animal, so they're happy, so they have interesting things to look at, so people can come in and look at them at different angles, etc., etc. And then we do a couple of episodes at the end of this zoo building, like once everything's finished, where we just play for a couple of episodes. Because I feel like what ends up happening a lot of times when I watch people online who play Planet Zoo is they'll build the zoo and then just move on to the next one. And I would really like to just enjoy the zoo once we're done. So that's our first option. Second option is we just do a kind of an in-between. We'll do like one episode where we fix an animal. Next episode will just be management. And then maybe what we can do while we're doing that, you know, in between that, is we'll fix some of the other things, like do a timeouts where we focus on the caves. Like obviously that's kind of what we will do with the original one, but it's like we'll rotate. So the first one, like obviously we'll do a bunch of time-lapse episodes. We'll do animal, and the next episode will be cave, and the next episode will be animal again. Next episode will be pathing system, like, you know what I mean? Whereas this one we could just do where we do playthrough and rotation between playthrough and building episodes. So instead of waiting until the end to do several management, because like it depends like on whether or not you as the viewer just want to see the entire zoo done and then we play a little bit, or if you want to see some playability through the building up of the zoo. I mean, if we do it that way, it might take longer because then we're doing a ton of extra playing in between the building up of the zoo. Whereas if we just build up the zoo and then play a little bit, then we can just move on to our next zoo, which obviously I would like to do a next zoo at some point. Why not, right? But I don't know. You let me know as the viewer who's actually watching this series. Leave a comment down below or message me on Instagram or whatever and just leave your thoughts. I would love to hear from you as the person who's actually observing this series, because I know there's a couple of you. I'm not saying I've got like over 1,000 people watching these videos, but I do have a couple of people observing my Planet Zoo videos. So you just leave a comment down below and just give me your 2 cents. I'd love to hear from you. But anyways, I think this station is close to being finished. Yes, it is. So now we are moving on to the next station, which is the Bullwinkle station. And the reason why I called it this is obviously because it's right above the moose exhibit, like Bullwinkle. I mean, right? I hope you understand what I'm talking about. I really do. If you don't, I highly recommend you Google it. But I realized that what I had originally planned for this area really won't work for this particular station. Now, I did like use some of the pieces, like these glass pieces. I realized, wow, those are really weirdly overlapped. And I realized that they were sitting wrong. So I just kind of pulled them back, put them in place, and then wrap them around the station. Now, obviously, what we could do is actually create a nice wood path over the train area so that it's not just, cement. But that's going to be another episode. That's not today. But this one, though, I thought because obviously the walkway is a little bit more extravagant on this one, we can do this divider that I did on all the other, on the original station, which was our main station. But I do adjust it a little bit because I realized that glass piece that I had in the middle was actually tilted. So I wanted to make sure that while I was putting it down, it wouldn't be tilted the entire time, because otherwise it just won't look like it matches. And then here I'm like, okay, well, this one we can actually encapsulate properly. Now, what I probably could have done is just done a flat roof on top of like the guest pathway and just called it a day. But I didn't think of that at all. That wasn't what I had in mind. I don't remember what I did exactly. We're about to see it for sure. I think I used a curved top, though, if I remember correctly. And then I did consider, okay, well, what if I, do one of these things where I just place it above? And I think that's what we end up doing, because I'm like, well, this is probably the easiest way to put it down. And then it will just build the glass pieces coming down from this piece around it. Now, I did consider that on the ramp, we cover it with glass. But I was like, that's going to be nearly impossible. And if you remember near my Arctic fox, there is a ramp area there as well. And instead of putting a glass pathway all the way up the ramp, I just kind of left it. I just said, you know what, forget it. So that's basically what we do here too. And I'm trying to find the proper pieces to do this. Now I thought, what if I use a curved piece? But I'm like, actually, it'd probably be better if I just use some really tall, straight pieces and then kind of slowly rotate them around the walkway. And so that's what we did for this area, was just rotate these tall glass pieces around the curves of the pathing system so that it wouldn't be next to impossible to actually make these line up with the path, because I did try the curved piece on the original walkway for the main station and it looks ridiculous. We're probably going to go back and change it at some point just so that it looks like this, and obviously it's easier to control. So that's kind of where my idea came for this piece, was just We're just gonna leave it like that. And then we're gonna copy and paste on the other side because it's literally the exact same shape. So we can just easily copy and paste, which is great because I love a cheater's way of doing things, as you know, because, who has time for that? Like, I want to play the game. This is a form of playing the game, but you know what I mean, right? Like, I want to, anyway. So that was kind of my plan. I also was like, okay, well, I have to deal with some of these overhang pieces. Like, how am I going to deal with the overhang pieces once I'm finished encapsulating these pieces with glass? Obviously, now I can just copy and paste, which is great. So I think what I end up doing is I use these square pillars to just hold off the overhang. So in that way, it kind of makes more sense. I obviously, though I haven't really used these pillars any other part of the zoo, but I figured that's the best way to cover it. And then again, I was trying to consider, do I put a glass pathway around the station and on the downhill area? And I kind of just was like, no, honestly. So I had put down these. Oh yeah, that's right. So I get a notification that the seals got out. I'm like, how did the seals get out? It's because based on where because the baby seals can fit in a smaller portion of place than the larger seals. So it was actually the baby seals that got out because the fences were pretty low, and because I had put out the fences around the mountainscape, they could technically get out that way. So I turned it off, but I did see that I could see the seal coming through here, and I was like, well, I really don't want them going through there. Like, that's not good at all. So I don't know if I fixed that issue particularly, but I obviously need to work on that. I don't want the baby seals going under the train. Like, that would be such a hazard. But I think I just kind of decided that's a problem for later. Okay, so here I am just... Yes, okay, so we do a lot of management things in between what we're doing today, partly because I decided I definitely want to bring in the animals into the zoo. So I do raise up a lot of these fences to make sure that they're properly height, so that some of the areas are blocked off from the animals so that they can't escape. At least I hope not. And obviously I decided, okay, well, if I'm going to put the animals in, that I need to actually set up some of these things, like put in the staffing path. Where is the actual staffing path going to go? As well as how high some of these exhibits need to be so that these animals don't get out. Now, I do come across several issues, which you're going to see. And some of them being that I used the wrong fence for certain animals because some of the animals needed a stronger fence, as well as, I think here I'm just trying to find a really good thumbnail, honestly. I'm pretty sure. And then I'm like, well, I'll just wait here. Yeah, it didn't work out that way. Obviously, we also unlock a bunch of things now that we're getting, oh my gosh, this poor penguin, Ellie, just tried inbreeding with all of the other brothers and sisters. So I do end up getting rid of Ellie at some point. What a great penguin, but also just breeding with all the other animals. This worker, I think, was genuinely broken because I tried to set them to go to work and they were standing there from October and they just wouldn't go take a break. And so they were complaining the entire time that they didn't have a break. And I'm like, then just go frickin' take one, which I guess you can't go tell them to just go take one. So what I end up doing later, which you'll see to kind of fix the worker, because I guess it said that worker wanted to quit. And I was like, okay, your wage is fine. You just won't go take a break, which I tried to promote them. They just refused to go take a break. So at some point, we deal with that. And then obviously all my animals start dying, which is part of the reason why this also became a much longer episode than I was expecting, because now the animals are all growing up, so the space is getting crowded. There is too much animals that are related to each other, so I need to find another partner for the animals so they don't inbreed. And then I also need to just find the animals that I want to keep and the ones that I want to put on contraceptives or put in trade center, whatever it is. So that's why we're doing some of this management stuff in time speed, is because even though this isn't really like, you know, a playthrough episode, there was obviously a bunch of things I had to do before I wanted to bring in the new animals into the zoo. And I think actually, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to yet. I was just like, you know what, let's just pull in the polar bears. Because the polar bears, they're going to bring us money. I think that was my original thought. Because we already have them, right? But then I think I just kind of said YOLO and was like, all right, let's just buy them all. I have the money, why not? So, that's what ended up happening, is I ended up buying the cougars. I think I still need to get a male dull sheet because there were only females available when I was playing. So I think we still need a male. Obviously, I put all of these exhibits into their proper work zones because I realized none of them were, and I was like, oh dear. And then I also realized, I'm like, well, I don't think if I realized it here, but at some point I needed to hire a bunch more staff. So I'm just picking out the best animals, trying to figure out how many they need. Like, is it a species where they want a large group of both 4 male and female, or is it a single group, one-on-one? And so I'm just trying to find the proper animals. Obviously, they're not always available. Like, for example, here I only got the Sussex chicken, but only female. So I have to get a rooster at some point as well. I don't think I did that yet either. And I think, yes. And then I do get one of the animals. I do find them a partner at some point, but some of the other ones, not so much. So there are a couple of animals that we have to go back in and make sure that we actually get some male counterparts or female counterparts to whatever animal is there. But we managed to get actually all of the animals we wanted in. So we get those funky looking boar creatures. What are they called? The peccary or something like that. And the pronghorn antelope, the bison, the plains bison. Here are my polar bear. Now I figured, even though I'm putting them down, I should probably do a couple of things to just make the animal happy, so that if protesters come, they have nothing to say. Even though it's maybe not the most ideal exhibit because there's nothing to look at and there's just defense of them wandering around, at least they have toys. So that is kind of maybe my really bad way of dealing with this at some point. Obviously, like I start getting notifications that animals are dealing with overcrowding. So I was like, okay, I probably should deal with some of these animals. So that was kind of what I was doing here, is kind of just going through and making sure I'm getting rid of the right animals and keeping the ones I actually want to keep. Because I think at some point my raccoons start complaining as well. Yep. And then here's my animals in breeding again. I'm like, why is it always Ellie? So Ellie, I just kind of released into the wild. I was like, girl, you got to go find someone else. And then obviously there are some parts of my glass walkway that I'm like, maybe, maybe people shouldn't walk through glass, but I haven't actually fixed that yet. So for now, people are still walking through glass. And then I'm making sure that as I'm putting the animals down, I'm actually making sure that they will not jump over the fence. So the polar bears I wasn't too worried about because I'm like, it's literally just a glass area. But they do escape. I don't know if they escape right here, but one of them escapes at some point because I used the wrong... Oh yeah, so the cougars... Oh no, the lynx can jump out. So I made sure to readjust. I was like, I can't deal with you guys running out. That would not be safe. I'd probably get so many refunds, yikes. But I used the wrong fencing. That is why the polar bears do escape. I don't know if they escape, if they already escaped or they will escape. I can't remember which one it is, but I know they did escape at some point in this recording session. So that was partly because I used the wrong fence, which again, it was originally supposed to be a placeholder. It was not supposed to be, their actual, their home, their permanent home, just the glass fencing, the glass barriers, I should say. That was not the plan, but it became that way, because yeah, I just kind of was like, whatever. So again, this is me being like, I should probably make the animals as happy as possible. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to make sure that the snow leopards can't get out, because those guys can jump really high. And yeah, they definitely can get out. Not good. Not good. So I was like, okay, I better fix this before they can get out, honestly. But I was like, okay, well, actually, probably what I should do is just put down more mountains. So I don't know if I, like, actually put down, I should say. I don't know if I actually put down, like I smoothed out those mountain pieces or not, but they're there for now. And then this is when my Arctic wolves, or sorry, my Arctic fox were all like, bro, like, there's way too many of us. And I was like, yeah, you're right. There's like 8 adults in this exhibit. So I did trade them all out. I think I kept maybe 1 just because it would be a really good partner later. And then here the snow leopards again. I have to fix their exhibit because I realized, wow, they can just escape anywhere. So I don't know if I actually smooth these pieces out or I just put them down for now. So we'll have to do that at a different episode, because again, I'm just placing things right now. I'm just making sure that the animals can't escape, that they have some toys to play with, some feeding areas. At some point, I realized, oh my God, I haven't given any of the animals actual feeding troughs. I don't know if I realized that for a while, to be honest, because all the animals haven't been in yet. And I think I realized once they're actually all into the zoo. And I also wanted to make sure, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure that I don't put the wrong animals in the wrong place. Oh, here it is. The polar bears escape. I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I use the wrong barriers? Because they need like the highest strength, and I was using one of the lowest strengths. So, so I converted their fence into the concrete with a double-sided glass window, and that fixed the problem. And then I put in my moose, I put in my bears, the buffaloes, and the red deer. Or the bison and the red deer, I should say. And thankfully, and I was trying to also make sure, like, that everybody's space was according to their needs. That they had more than enough space to run, you know. So, thankfully, that was the case. And I think all that I have left is my petting zoo animals to put through the zoo. Because even our wolverines are doing okay, but they can escape. So I realized that. I was like, oh God, like, what have I done? You know, sometimes you just, I think that's also the problem, right? So yeah, here it is. My grizzly bears got out now because I used the wrong fence. I was like, oh my God. So I switched their fence again to the concrete. I was like, oh my God, I just really need to make sure these animals can't get out. And then because I was really concerned about my polar bears, because apparently they're really thirsty, is I was like, okay, I need to put their water down because they need to swim. Like, I know it, you know it. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll extend their fence a little bit so they have a little bit more space. And now it's in the proper amount of space. But I was like, okay, well, they definitely need a water treatment plant. So we're going to do it this way. Now, at some point, even though I wanted to use solar power on basically the majority of the zoo, at some point, I'm like, these solar panels are not going to be able to do it because I think there was an area, it comes up. Yeah, I'll just say it now because it moves so fast what we're doing here. So I'm putting down all the waters and all the food troughs for all the animals in each exhibit because I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I really didn't do that. Here are my petting zoo animals. They're so cute. In the plains grasslands exhibit where we have the pronghorn antelope, we have the prairie dog, we have the red deer, and we also have the bison. They need a warmer-ish climate, which I have no problem providing them. So I do give them some heaters at some point once the prairie dogs start complaining. Because actually the other animals didn't care so much. It was mostly the prairie dogs. They needed it warmer, and for some reason the energy just would not extend there. So what I end up doing is just putting down a transformer. I know that it's more ideal to like put down the solar panels, but like it's not going to reach that far. And then also like here I am going through all the exhibits, making sure that the animals have proper climbing spaces, that they have toys to play with, because objectively, that's really important. And I think at this point, I start realizing, because now we're putting more animals in, we're also getting more guests, and we need more keepers. But I don't know if I realized this right away, but I'm dealing with still some of the exhibit animals first and making sure they have some decent space to roam. They're pretty happy overall, even if there's a couple of things that they would like changed. But we do at some point hire a bunch of staff because now we have a whole bunch of animals. There's only so many keepers. Yeah, like right here where I'm like, why is there so much litter? And I think it's because we don't have enough caretakers at this point. But I was like, oh, well, I'll deal with it in a second. But I don't think it actually like relieves itself. In fact, I think it gets worse. And noticing that the animals are having dirtier exhibits and noticing that the pathway is a lot dirtier, that I was like, I need more workers. So I think what I did here is I was like, okay, I'll lower it to like +3 so that at least if it snows, it's okay. And the prairie dogs are fine. So that is kind of how I managed to get away with this. But I think this is at that point where I realized I need a transformer. So I get a transformer and put it a little bit further away so that people can still reach it. Because this is the far edge of the zoo. So it's not going to be anywhere near the guests. So that's kind of why I did that. It was because of the heaters that I needed going for the prairie dog, specifically just the prairie dog. Honestly, I haven't had any complaints even from my petting zoo animals. They're totally fine with the -5 weather, apparently. The prairie dogs, not so much. Which I guess they're little small bodies, so I guess that makes sense, right? And they also don't really have a cave yet because I haven't built them the kind of stuff yet. Again, I'm just kind of going through making sure that everything's there. I think I just fire this guy because he's clearly broken. So I just hire a new one because I'm like, that worker is like clearly miserable. He hasn't taken a break. He's been standing there for 3 years straight. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, that I'm kind of just, yes. So here's, I'm putting down the heaters, checking in all the animals, making sure they all have their proper toys, and seeing if I have enough keepers. So here I think I hired about 15 new keepers. And I think I promoted almost everybody I already have, even though I tend to not want to promote vendors. But I figured if we get a couple more vendors, but we promote the current ones, then that should level out what we need. And again, more inbreeding. This time it's Grace. Jeez. So I got rid of Grace. I think we have to go through our penguins and just pick out particular different ones. I think that's the way we're going to do it. So we are close to the end of this time lapse. Again, think about what I said earlier, whether or not we should do a rotating between management and time lapse episodes, or if we should do more of a full series of time lapse episodes and a couple of management episodes before we move on to the next zoo. But you let me know. I'm having so much fun. I'm glad to get all these animals in here. They're so adorable. Let me know what you think of my zoo. Honestly, I'm not saying the glass is great, so if you've got complaints there, like, I'm with you, bro. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sarah. I'm the host of Sarah's Spare Corner. Sarah's Spare Corner encompasses gaming, as well as arts, crafts, and various different forms of creativity. Additionally, I like sharing theories, concepts, and ideas, as I am a philosophy major. And when I'm not poor, I might travel places, and I might post about it. Whenever you're watching this, I hope that you have a lovely afternoon, evening, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye now.